No, we had other things to do.
I did want to say that you both have really just good facial hair. And I do too.
I feel like you said this last time.
I didn't say this the last time.
I swear you
I
did.
just listened to the last episode.
I grew a beard out since then.
Yeah, you
think
literally have.
I think I was completely shaved. It took like a week for me to grow out.
Yeah.
Are you recording?
Yeah.
You make. I couldn't hear you in my headphones. I want to make sure you're. No, like yeah. I just listened. I haven't uploaded the second episode that we did yet, but I listened to it, and there was no talk of facial hair. And I just uploaded the one before that, and there was no talk of facial hair.
I don't know why he would think that would be a common thing. He says,
Wow.
nice facial hair every time.
Nice beard, king. You know, yeah. I want that on record, so my boys can feel good about that. You know, I want on record that you two are handsome. You know,
Damn.
We're a handsome bunch.
Damn, that sucks.
That sucks.
Yeah,
yeah.
That really does suck.
Really unfortunate.
Yeah.
That everything we've tried to teach that's what you find a moment to highlight.
Why does it suck? That's such a weird...
Finding beauty in the most hideous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hey, look, so what you're saying is that...
He's saying this? I am literally
Quasimodo.
disfigured. Yeah. Half of my face is burned. And
Is it?
No.
No.
Damn
well,
it, you're ruining
like
it. I was gonna start building up that I'm a horribly disfigured person.
Oh,
and you're
Man
like,
in the
nice
Iron
beard.
Mask
And I'm like...
shit. Look, all I'm saying is Quasimodo shouldn't have had a happy ending in The Hunchback of Notre Dame because the moral of the story should be ugly people can't get ahead.
The real book didn't. That was the Disney ending.
Oh, okay.
That is the real.
Sorry,
yeah, that is
sorry.
the real book.
I got hung up on the phrase Quasimodo getting a happy ending.
What?
Well, that also should have happened.
What?
Damn, he goes out of his way to save Esmeralda, and then she's just like, oh, thank you for the job well done. It's like, come on.
Oh, because of this disfiguredness?
I did a little more than that. Come on now.
No, I mean, in the original Quasimodo story, it's like...
It's dark.
It's
dark.
Everyone dies.
Yeah.
It's really long, too.
It is way too long.
It's like Don Quixote, I think. Yeah. I don't know whenever.
Don Quixote.
Both French. Yeah, both French.
It starts off because it was typified as like the pinnacle of Gothic literature in terms of like. So the first few pages of that is literally just descriptions of buildings.
Yeah,
and it literally is about Gothic architecture.
Yeah, it's like some. Yeah, I can't stand that when a book. It's like this whole chapter is about the setting. We're never going to talk about any of these setting implements again. Like, I'm going to tell you how all the buildings look. It doesn't fucking matter, but there's a whole chapter 1 dedicated to it. You know what I'm saying?
Why don't you read? That seems like the kind of book you'd actually read.
I did read it.
You did?
Yeah, I read that part.
Hey, look.
When?
And then it was like, here's a story, and I'm like, I thought I was sold on a whole book about buildings, dude. I'm done.
I'm not saying it's a bad book, because all I'm saying is because Alexander Dumas is like one of the best writers of all time. Count of Monte Cristo is one of my favorite books of all time. But French writers tend to be pretty good, or at least if they're writing about French shit. I don't know. But all I'm trying to say is, at the same time, they need to learn how to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? They learn how to get to their point. I get that, like, you had nothing to do at that time period but write. So you're like, yeah, I'm going to write this 3,000-page banger. But, man, can you give me the spark notes?
Didn't Lord of the Rings continue that tradition of overly describing things? Or are you saying it's different?
Not really.
For nature.
Lord of the Rings is kind of to the point.
Are you kidding me?
What? Relatively.
Not compared to nowadays, how fiction is literally. Yeah, get to the point is the basic point of modern fiction.
Yeah, how do you feel about, because that is actually interesting. How do both of you feel about that? Like on the spectrum of tons and tons of description to the point of uselessness, or straight to the point where, you know, it's so direct there might be things that are left lacking. Like where on that spectrum do you fall?
Because
like
Name in the Rose has that whole section.
What you like, or you know,
yeah.
But not the whole book.
I don't know. What does Matt think?
What do you like?
Is this another episode where it's just overly on me?
That would be a really easy question for me to answer.
You know,
so.
I'm much better now. I'll
too.
sound much better. I've been using a humidifier to sleep, so I think my throat has been less coffee, and I did not eat a half a jar of peanut butter. Because last time I ate a half a jar of peanut butter.
It was cookie
I can tell
butter.
your humor's less dry.
For the record, it was cookie butter.
I feel much better than
That's
my
good.
sickness last time.
That's good. I'm glad you're sleeping better. I mean, yeah, like
I mean, it's not. I never had a problem sleeping. I just would cough a lot. But I think that it was just dry.
Well, I'd like to congratulate you on dodging the question, but if you could return to it.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, so you're in top form, which means this is going to be a episode. We got to make up for it.
So what was the redirected question?
Well, you like philosophy. You like shit that goes on. I guess
philosophy it doesn't try to be a roundabout unless it's trying to describe a situation or idea in all aspects. Where you need to describe it in a metaphysical way or spiritual way, in which you would need to do a meandering of descriptions.
So it's like, I totally get what you mean, because it's like whenever you're trying to explain something to someone and they ask it's sort of like asking. I remember this because there'd be those people who were on at UC at the college who would go in the free speech area and challenge people would be like, yeah, explain evolution to me. And it's like, dude, this would be 100-page. I'd be teaching an entire fucking class. It's kind of like that. You're trying to be as direct and as simple as possible. Unfortunately, as direct and as simple as possible is a paragraph that's a page and a half long.
If you want to describe something really complex, you have to have a foundation where we all can agree on something.
Right.
So that's why Descartes famously had, he said, he basically had he brought about doubt of anything and then started with, we shouldn't know anything. We have no justification to know anything.
Right.
Then, from that point, he started again. So he said, it started from the top saying, okay, what if we know this, but this, but this, but this, but this, to a full doubt slide to saying, well, we probably shouldn't know anything. And then he starts again, and he goes, okay, but we should know this. I know this. I know this. So he restarts how knowledge works.
And that's a tall fucking order.
Philosophy professors always are like, ooh, we're going to talk about Descartes. They're always just like, okay, his ambition was to completely rework how we think.
So do you, I guess in that case, do you like things, so it's not necessarily things that are florid or wordy. Do you like things that are comprehensive?
It just doesn't matter. It matters what it is. Yeah. It depends on what it's trying to do. If you're doing an action-packed story, you probably don't want to be looking at the freaking painting on the wall while explosions happen.
That's true.
Unless that's the point of the story.
That's true.
I don't mind meandering. Yeah, as long. I mean, usually the meandering is meaning something. In Name of the Rose, the meandering was showing. I think it was what was it? It was showing the architecture of the area. Oh no, it was a mural. I think the important part was the mural of satanic things. Is that what it was?
Yep.
And then he just
almost any tangential scene in that story is usually trying to typify the greater commentary that's happening in the book,
right?
Or is giving direct clues.
Everything has a purpose.
Yeah,
even if it looks like it doesn't, or even if it's really long and painstaking, it's still there for a reason.
Yeah, right. I mean, he is probably he's very particular because you really have to get used to. I mean, for any author. I mean, some authors are made so you can just get used to them. They're no, like me right now. I'm a popular author. You just want to be known. But Echo is no, I know a lot of books and I will reference them as much as possible. Because this is my personality, is to reference all these books as much as possible. Yeah. He's just this nerd. It's okay, what about this 1647?
It's
which references a 1470 book? Which references a book?
It's no original. Well, I mean, it's kind of I know people who are like that, where it's not saying that he is, but they don't have a single original thought in their minds. They just have a catalog of everyone else's.
It's just a unconscious thing where you say one thing which references one thing. It's not I guess it acts as original, but
it's a mind palace. It's like a Sherlock Holmes-esque mind palace.
Mind palace, yeah.
Yes.
You said you had an answer to this question because I wanted to move into something RPG related.
The answer is a mind palace. That's what you need to create for your reader in any story. And the way you do that is description as it is needed, and only as it is needed.
I totally agree. And that kind of leads into I've been running a lot of track marks a lot more.
Oh wow,
that's good. Cool. Content's coming out for it. Cool. Maybe finally, I've said that 1 billion times, so I'm not hedging my bets, but I feel good. But But something I've started doing when I run track marks is like I have a paragraph. It's a short paragraph that's literally like you are the blackguard. You're here to do this. This is what's going on. Let's go. And I will literally before every session, even though everyone knows what track marks is, I'll read it, and it does a really good job of like getting everybody immediately into the game. Or then if it's like they're at a spot in the neighborhood or the borough, and I'm looking at the map, and I'm like, all right, here's what's here. A quick, like literally almost reading off a description of here's what's there. North, south, east, west, here's what's there. Let's go. And just like trying to get into the game as fast as possible while giving them exactly what they need, to the point where I'm pretty much, I don't script anything else, but I practically script the beginning of every one of my sessions, and then that sets the precedent for everything else going forward.
Yep.
It's been really nice.
Yeah.
Like it's been because like giving them exactly what they need. I'm like, I know exactly what they need to go.
Their Miranda rights for you to play the game, just like something you always got to say before you start the game.
It was something like track marks, very apt. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like I guess it's just you just giving them purpose so they have something to attach to instead of like random characters where like, why are we together? And you're like, no, everything you need to know is already said.
Right, because
the
game doesn't happen until they start asking. We talked about it last time. The game doesn't happen until they start asking me questions and we start bouncing back and forth. But I can't just. It's kind of hard, or I'll find myself going on and on and on, or talking about shit nobody cares about if I just start. So if I laser focus and know beforehand exactly what I'm talking about what I need to talk about to get them going, I don't need to do anything else. Mm-hmm. Like I already have the point crawl on a sheet of paper in front of me. That's all prepped. I have my little script for the first 5 minutes ready, and then everything else just goes.
Yeah, because it's like that first live stream we did, where you're like, hey, you're in the dungeon, and you got to get out. And everyone could attach to it very easily.
Everyone attached to that.
Give them purpose immediately.
And it was so clear.
They don't have to do that.
Yeah, I love that.
Put the work in. They don't have to put extra work. They get to put more fun work than like having to actually make the game for themselves.
Right.
The game's out there.
I think the same thing even goes into the odd. Might be an extreme example because it's a 3D6 in order system sort of thing, but like people just want to get into the game.
Yeah.
People just want to get to the table and get in, and the fastest you can get them in that and build up the momentum, the better your game usually goes, I find. And that especially when you're under the pressure to make a one shot, all the momentum's fucking there because you're like, we gotta go. You're like, I gotta give them what they need, and we are all moving. And to like recapture that urgency and put it in your game as often as possible is like
right, because the one shot you need momentum quickly.
Yeah,
like if it's a long campaign, you'll have downtime games,
which is okay.
Yeah,
but you still do kind of need. I feel like even in a campaign setting, you're starting scenes in media res. You know what I mean? Instead of it being like, okay, you guys go here and walk in the building, it's like, all right, you guys went there and there's a hostage situation at the fucking shop. Oh, that's extreme, but like, never letting there not be like action, is kind of a big deal.
Do a pitch, but anti in media res. It's a one-shot pitch in which they primordially become themselves at the time. So it's the opposite of a media res.
The point of pitch is a campaign story.
I know, but you could do a one-shot version where it's it is the beginning of pitch, and then right when it starts.
Doing a one-shot version is simply doing some sort of isekai framing story. The way you do it is by introducing pitch as some anomaly that you can have other characters that are already grounded in another reality sort of work on the mechanics of and sort of understand and then be done with it.
But that almost like, so you're basically saying in order to easily run a pitch one shot, it's like you kind of gotta make it not what it was intended to do.
Yeah, you just look at it from a different angle.
Right.
How when do you think? Here's I guess another topic. I'm just gonna keep rattling them off. It's like how high concept can you get before the integrity of the game flips? Like you're sitting down with people who haven't really played an RPG before.
Yeah.
You're doing a one shot, you want to get things in the game, you want to go. But like I have taken a long time to engineer track marks down to the point where I could run that setting, which is a very nuanced, complicated, wide history setting, and I could sit down with people who've never played an RPG before and play it in one session. Easy.
Yeah.
But that took a lot. That took a lot of development. That took a lot of cutting stuff off. Like D&D, do you feel that that's like it's ubiquitous enough that you don't really have to worry about that? Like the elves, the dragons, the orcs, that's just kind of, it comes with its own understanding ahead of time?
I mean, in terms of like the concern of using high concept ideas and stuff in a game and keeping that on track with player expectations and like their comfort levels.
Yeah, like how high concept do you think you can get in a one shot?
It's easy. Well, not with a one shot, not an amazing amount. It depends on how much I preload on to people's characters. Because if the one shot, it's probably going to be pre-made characters.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, usually there's a lot more design that can go into doing a concept, because you can have that design, you can have the concept explored from both the characters and how you design them to interact with each other and their environment and the environment that you build.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's over for a campaign, really, I'd just say it takes as long as the players
are invested.
As long as it takes for players to get to know their characters. I don't think any concept is a problem in D&D or most RPG games once people know who their characters are.
Yeah.
The problem happens when you have high concept stuff happening at the exact same time that people are trying to formulate very foundational things about how they want to roleplay.
Or even how they want to, if you're playing a game like I run where role-playing isn't as at the front and center, it's even how you want to interact with the world.
Yeah.
You know, like what your MO is. Like how is the way that I'm approaching this game? And to be really reductive, it's almost like players kind of don't give a shit about anything else. Of course they do. Yep. Of course they fucking do. I do. We all do. But I mean, I think at the no, okay. I think at the foremost, it's when you're sitting down, like let's say a campaign, I'm sitting down at the table, like Dench, you know, and it's like, what do I want to do with this guy? And that occupied my brain for like 8 sessions before it was like, oh, okay, I've been doing things, I've been trying stuff out, and now we're rolling. But I think that's kind of nice because it gives you a lot of wiggle room to throw stuff at a board. Maybe it doesn't stick. Maybe you need to retcon something without anybody noticing. Maybe you need to completely switch venues, but everybody's so engrossed in, oh my God, how do I make my character? How do I play with the world? How do I do this? That you like, it's kind of, they're distracted in a way.
Yeah.
They're invested in a good thing, which is how their character's interacting with stuff. But since they're so invested in that, that gives you the ability to kind of get used to them.
Oh,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I like that it's like the character is a focal point. You both said no. What do you mean?
Said
like,
nothing.
Were you being
Factually,
facetious? Or?
We said nothing. Our heads may have made certain motions.
They did,
but that is not a declarative. A correspondence does not correlate.
What do you think players care the most about in general? Is it their character?
Exerting power in one way or another, either with their stats or within the world.
Like making change,
just
basically.
Just power, yeah.
Because power is like, do you mean power as in like I have the ability to enact change and make things happen, or do you mean like the accumulation of ability and wealth? And
no, just making things happen.
No, it's about the individual scenes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because either they're like, I made this character, it took me 600 years to make it, and it will do at level 1, it'll do 600 damage, or I made a character, and I am going to try to take over this town.
Yeah.
It's just power fantasy in one way or another.
I think
even
right.
if it's a weak power fantasy, like you said, it's influencing what's happening in the game.
I think that's why starting characters on not only the same playing field but also at the absolute bottom of the barrel is best for power fantasy, because on one hand, you know, they might have a general goal or something, but they're gonna go like literally the only way we can go is up.
Yeah.
You know, like what do we have to lose? Nothing. What do we go when we go into somewhere? What we have everything to gain.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of leads back to how I feel about like lethal games or roguelikes and stuff like that, where because death is so cheap, like life is so cheap, that you have the ability to be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. Then I'm gonna go and do exactly the thing I want to do, because I might die anyway.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Well, power and experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Power and knowing the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And influencing it by your knowledge.
generating power, influencing the world.
The thing is, playing games like yours, Jimmy, teaches people how to fail successfully.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know how to fail successfully.
Yeah,
because it feels.
For instance,
bad.
a lot of people in like 5th edition don't realize that when they have disadvantage on an attack roll,
it's only once.
It's only once. So why not describe your character doing the most badass attack you can?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
When 5th came out, that was like the coolest part.
Yeah,
I remember talking about that for weeks of being like, no, I can do a backflip and make it as dumb as I want because there's only one disadvantage. And we kind of lost that, you know. Yeah. Naturally, I kind of forget about it.
You're right.
I think
you're totally fucking right.
You guys, you remember at the time, you said the same thing. We were all like talking about it together, and we were like, yeah, the whole thing is that you had disadvantage once. And we recently talked about how it doesn't stack. No matter what you do, advantage, disadvantage.
Yeah, because in those days it used to be like,
go fucking ham.
All right, I've got a dagger. Okay, cool. All right, I've got a dagger and I've got another one. All right, you're getting a -4 or -8 unless you have feats. All right, I've got that dagger and I've got this one, and then I'm going to turn that one upside down, ready to throw it. All right, you need more feats. All right, so now I've got this dagger and this dagger. I'm going to be tossing this one up in the air, and then I'm going to be doing a kick of that dagger down at the other person. Yeah. Great. So... let's modify everything, improvise
Power
weapon,
attack,
thrown, everything. You have a -22 modifier and then a -26 modifier for your next attack for these.
I'm not going to do it.
5th edition. You're level 1. I want to take my dagger and throw it up in the air and kick it. Well, you're on the ground already. Well, great. So it's already a disadvantage, so who cares? I'll do it.
Yeah. It was the big thing.
I
succeed. Your character spin kicks off the ground, kicks the dagger into their face,
and that I fucking love that. And that's almost an argument for saying fuck grid and tactical combat in 5th edition.
Yeah,
because it's like if you have advantage and disadvantage. Well, that's the thing with advantage. You only have the one advantage. You might as well go all out with that shit too. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you're gonna constrain yourself to a grid and be like, I move 5 spaces, hit with disadvantage. Okay, but if you're like, yeah, I'm gonna cartwheel. I'm going to fucking swing from the chandelier. Yeah.
That was one of the coolest parts. That's probably still one of the coolest parts of 5th.
It was revolutionary. It was
revolutionary.
Totally
encouraged you to not even care. Because, the -20 thing was huge because you had to build it.
Yeah.
You had to build a character out of the -20. So you could
the game punished you for being cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like we said last time, you had to do it in your own way. You had to build very specific. That was cool in itself.
Yeah.
But 5th was like, you can take risks, and there's only one disadvantage.
Yeah.
Now the DM would be like, okay, you can't do 600 backflips.
Yeah.
Like obviously you can't do that, but you can do this and only have a disadvantage.
The way I feel like that's so you were talking about exerting power mechanically and in the fiction, and I think that something like advantage and disadvantage, saying like, hey, you can go as wild as you want with it, but you're not going to get this ridiculous punishing modifier no matter what you do.
It's
I
built
think,
not punishing.
Yeah, I love that. I think the other end of that is something that I learned from Burning Wheel, which is the character always succeeds at what they're doing. The question is what the cost is. Yeah. Like if they're going to, it's the yes but. It's not the yes and, it's the yes but. It's like the saying like, the players are pretty much always going to be it's never discouraging people from doing what they want in the game. And it's maybe, of course, balancing some ridiculous shit with disadvantage or saying, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to get everything you want, but you can get some of it. Usually that's enough of a cost all the players are willing to pay because they can still do the thing. But when it's like, oh, you have a -20 to hit, or no, you can't do that, that's stupid, then it's like, oh, well, why am I even here? Why do I even bother coming up with shit?
Burning Wheel is encourages interesting failures.
Yeah, 5th edition's like, do you want to have 2 weapons in your hand but be attacking only with 1? Go ahead, no penalty.
No
Old days, it's like, you've got a bit of extra weight in your other hand, that's it. I'm sorry. your attacks are done unless you're skilled. Were you born ambidextrous just like every other ranger that's ever been born?
Every ranger's ambidextrous. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird how that works out?
Yeah. It'd be really weird if they took that out, because that's still one of the. It's going to be a long time if they change disadvantage advantage. I assume it's a.
They better fucking
to actually think about it. If a player joins and whatever, but if you actually like get down and like, no, disadvantage advantage doesn't stack.
I could see them maybe returning to a gradient, but I think the bounded accuracy thing, I think they'll want to keep numbers low.
Yes.
So simple. I could see them doing like some sort of like +2/+2/+2 system, so that's like, yes, you can stack a few more disadvantage against advantage.
Yeah.
Because there's been so many
more granularity.
As we played 5th edition, now that's so old, you do come into so many situations where it's like, all right, you have disadvantage from this person and from this attack and this ability, but you have advantage because this and then this spell going on.
Yeah, and then
so it just
and it all kind of cancels out down to
It's weird because it's like, oh, you have disadvantage +10 either way. I mean,
maybe
you're gonna probably succeed.
It could be something as easy as because +2 is still like a 10% chance. That's still significant.
Yeah.
So you could even say like, and that's about half of what advantage is. So you could say like, literally like, oh, all the disadvantages and all the advantages, these all like kind of cancel out, but. Well, so 2 advantages, 5 disadvantages in a crazy scenario.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to end up only rolling 1 disadvantage, but you're going to get an additional -2 just because of how fucking insane the number of disadvantages are. And then don't go any further than
They
that.
can make that.
Don't go any further
A
than
DM
that.
can make that choice.
I think so. Look, like...
But I think it...
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, what you were saying last time about streaming is I think they would also keep that because it simplifies it much more.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to tell someone... -2, -4, -5, -6. You say no disadvantage and you're done, and you move on.
Yep. And from an OSR perspective, both bounded accuracy and advantage disadvantage fucking changed everything. Like originally, the OSR was a bunch of like, oh, we're just gonna reprint Osric for the 1000th time. We're gonna redo Advanced Dungeons and Dragons for the 1000th time. Oh, there he goes. I don't know what he's doing. He's sneaking away, a little gremlin.
I don't know. The bathroom's not in there.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's about to be.
Oh, jeez.
He's got to, but
yeah.
Anyway, it's like,
nice.
All of a sudden, people were like, not only do you not have to worry about a fuckload of modifiers because advantage, disadvantage, not only do you not going to worry about that, but numbers are going to be between 1 and 20. Every number on a 20-sided die is what it's going to be. And fucking there was an explosion. Everybody, it solved numbers.
Yeah.
Literally those two things, bounded accuracy and advantage, disadvantage, solved numbers for role-playing games. And I know that there's some things that like probably, like I know the advantage, disadvantage notion came from somewhere beforehand and stuff, but it wasn't really in a lot of use and or codified until Wizards did it. You know what I mean? Yep. Who did it? Do we know exactly which designer made that decision?
I'm gonna kick his ass.
Whoever designed the 4th edition Avenger.
Really?
Yeah, the Avenger class is what used the advantage system originally.
Oh, fascinating.
They were basically like a rogue, and they were a holy rogue, and so their whole thing is that they rolled twice and chose the best result.
Yeah, because Teeman rolled
attack.
2 1s.
And then as they got higher levels, they could be rolling 3 or 4 dice per attack.
Was Avenger core?
That was Player's Handbook 2.
Yeah.
Who designed PHB2?
I remember that. Because I remember that makes sense. Because I remember Teeman rolling 2 1s. I totally forgot that was an advantage system.
Yeah, he's like, look how awesome my character is, guys. I rolled 2 dice for every attack, and we're like, nice. And he did the first attack and rolled 2 1.
Yeah, he's like, I can never fail, and then he rolled.
And then
he
got like charmed or something.
Catch me over here, still feeling nostalgic for 4th edition, man.
The Paragon Pass system was fun. It was nice just going, let's start up a game at 11th level, and we've got plenty of game to go through, and everyone can make really intricate and wild characters.
Yeah. The different seeds of how to get to somewhere was interesting. Like we were saying literally yesterday about Pale Knight stuff.
Yeah.
Like you need to multi-class into like 6 things to do that. That would be nice if they brought that back, where you had to like actually pick. You can not too much, but you could do like 5 levels in fighter, 5 levels in like cleric, and then you get this. That was always a cool. I like that.
I'm just looking at this cover too because this is when they introduced Goliath too.
It's
like God, I remember when this book came out. I was so pumped.
Really?
But PHB 2 was written by the 3 designers. It was Heinzu, Merles, and Schwalbe. So I would probably, if I had to put money on it, I'd say Schwalbe did. Because I think Schwalbe did Shadows of the Demon Lord later, which borrowed a lot of shit from 5th edition and made it better in a way. Like really like took hey, I like that bounded accuracy thing. I like that advantage, disadvantage thing. Let's remove the D&D stuff and just run with that. So I could see Schwalbe being the one who made it. But yeah. No, that's sick. That's sick as fuck. Schwalbe.
I don't know the future of 5th. But.
Well, we know what the future of 5th is already. Because they're re-releasing the Core 3, but they're doing 5th edition essentials basically.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing. 5.5.
I would put down money that they are not going to come out with a 6th edition. That they are going to keep iterating on 5th edition.
I mean, they already said that they will by 2024.
Yeah.
A 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were coming out. I thought that's when they were coming out with 5.5. That's
when they were saying. That's what I mean, but that's what is being labeled as 6E. But they could announce it as 5.5E.
Well,
wouldn't it be hilarious? Wouldn't it be hilarious if you have the same sort of system that 4th edition had, where both systems are working at the same time, and so all the 5th edition characters are doing basic attacks, and then all the 5.5 are using abilities.
Yeah,
so that would be fascinating.
It's the exact opposite of 4th edition's essentials.
That
would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, they just stack all the abilities.
They pull a bait and switch. The 5th edition was a ploy to get us back to playing 4th edition.
Because they introduce a whole new customized system that works like Pathfinder 2E. You're using abilities for all your attacks.
I hope they pick up some fucking lessons learned from Pathfinder 2. There's some things that Pathfinder 2 has that D&D has no excuse to not have, like the way crafting works and shit like that. It's like, dog, like, where's this at?
Yeah.
From what I understand, they said in 2024 we were re-releasing the 3 core rulebooks with a bunch of changes that are still going to be compatible with D&D 5th edition. And then that's it.
I can't wait for Dragonborn to not change.
Oh, please fix that.
I can't wait for
one
of the
weapon,
biggest gripes ever.
Oh.
And then they don't change that. And then they just put revised range, but they don't.
Well, there's been
add
tons
anything.
of Dragonborn that fixes since.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, you know what?
They're
going
to work great.
They're going to fix it by making breath an at-will power.
Well, how breath works is you can replace any of your attacks with a breath. And you can breathe a certain amount of times per day.
Right. That's what it is.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Proficiency bonus times.
That'd be nice.
Currently is how most of the advanced Dragonborn races work.
I like that. Oh, like official advanced stuff?
Yeah.
That's
like
cool.
the gem, metallic, and...
Can I just say how fucking rad the proficiency bonus is, too?
Yeah, proficiency bonus is nice.
Are you good at it or are you not?
Yeah.
Boom. You're done. There you go. It's almost to the point where you could take all of these elements that we're talking about. You don't even need, like, levels... even or classes. Like they're just such a good power like scaling and thing all on its own, assigning advantage, disadvantage, assigning proficiency or not proficiency, assigning a number somewhere in the bounded accuracy. It's such a good collection of just nice.
Yeah, but psychologically people
mechanics.
like to level up. I mean, that's just a
let's go
always.
Yeah. Let's go elsewhere. How would you design a fantasy D&D sort of system around Star Trek's momentum and threat?
Wow, we are going somewhere different.
Yeah.
I should say, okay, when I was talking, these sets of mechanics we're talking about for 5th edition, the 2D20 stuff, I also really enjoy the core set of mechanics.
Yeah.
The way that all the momentum and threat spend all works. I mean, honestly... it's just a lot easier to reskin 2D20 than it is to reskin.
I feel
D&D,
like if because 2D20, I mean, for fantasy, for medieval fantasy, they've got Conan, which is pretty solidly there.
Yeah,
they've also got one other I thought that was
John Carter. Technically,
yeah, John Carter.
Yeah.
But that's still more like solar kind of punk sci-fi.
Yeah, it's like sword and sorcery sci-fi. Kinda,
yeah.
It's interesting because they go to Mars, which is super science fiction, but Mars is like a sword and sorcery planet.
It'd be wild if there was a D20 game that was based around, fantasy and attacked the idea of doing an adventuring game differently.
Dark Sun 2D20. That's where Dark Sun comes back.
My dick would be pretty big.
I've seen
veins pop out.
I've seen the Dark Sun role playing game, like the book that's out, and they've got like player journals and everything for it.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No, it's at Gamer Saving right now.
What the fuck are you talking about? Are you talking about Dune?
Yeah, Dune.
We said
Dark Sun.
Oh, not Dark Sun.
I was about to lose my fucking
mind
mind because I own the Dune 2D20.
You just
went
book.
Woo!
Yeah,
he just
no,
went.
I saw like they've been releasing a whole lot of like supplemental stuff.
We were both like, what?
They have been. I would love to run because we're already running Star Trek 2D20. Everybody's used to it. I would love to run Dune 2D20, especially because I'm reading all the novels right now. Patrick would really want to get in on that shit.
You know what I'd do with the 2D20 fantasy? I'd change the incentives around to work a bit like a really more action-based torchbearer. Threat and momentum with players being able to spend like threat to get better items. You could really kind of build a game around the whole like a party trying to break into a living dungeon and having it feed back and everything.
Now you have an excuse for your torch blows out, or a random encounter happens, or or you fall into a pit trap, because it's literally fuck you. I'm spending my threat tokens.
It's all narrative focused. And then instead, for races and classes and stuff, you have a whole lot of different momentum spends that they can do that are specialized. You've got different tracks that you can choose.
That'd
be a really
Dark
fun
Sun
game.
2D20.
A lot of what, like, I talked about Free Kriegspiel last time, where it's literally everything's in plain language. There's no discrete mechanics except for, like, rolling off if you don't agree on something, or making mechanics that you need. The 5th edition set of mechanics and the 2D20 set of mechanics, those are totally things that you can, like, here is our mechanics box. We are just role-playing and describing our characters this way until it's time to resolve something. We break out the mechanics. And then literally you have an adventurer who's like, well, my character grew up from this and probably knows this, so I'm going to add a D20.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to do this, so I'm going to add a D20. And then, like, oh, well, you know, but there's things going on around you in this. Like, what I'm saying is, if you wanted to prototype that or playtest that, you could literally, like, break out the dishes with the tokens, and we could sit down and just do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I love the idea, because using the threat and momentum pools resolve a lot of the weird idiosyncrasies about dungeon crawling design, and they do it without tying themselves to any specific setting or any specific, the beer, or any specific, like, MO of dungeon crawling.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that a lot. That'd be fucking sick.
Yeah, it almost seems like it's
But I mean, I don't
like Berserk.
Yeah,
it's just like extra evil. The like.
I just feel like
Earth really hates you.
This dungeon wants to kill you.
So
it's alive and wants to kill you.
Downtime parts that are usually part of a D&D game, crafting proficiencies, these things that are part of the game that really aren't supposed to be part of the game with how the game functions
really
and works.
Yeah.
They're there along the sidelines to kind of have
really
a role
fast.
to hang something on story-wise. Like, okay, this person's playing an inventor. They did a check, so yeah, we'll say that they did this thing.
Right.
It doesn't. When you're playing as a player, you never actually feel like you're being able to explore a profession or explore what you're doing in your downtime.
Oh yeah.
Whereas if it's in a D20 system, that's incentivized the entire way
2D20,
through.
right?
Yeah, 2D20.
Yeah.
If it's a 2D20 system, that type of play is incentivized the entire way through.
By putting stuff into, we'll get to that. Maybe I'll answer your question with what I was going to say. It's like when I'm putting so much shit into the odd right now, including some Delta Green stuff. And this might sound weird coming from like a Burning Wheel evangelist, but I mean, like, fuck the rules a lot of times. Because a lot of times, especially when you're a player, you're kind of in this position where you're like, I just want to do this.
Yeah.
Can we get as much as possible out of the way except for the barest minimum of thing? And by using threat and momentum in terms of like dungeon crawling, you remove a lot. You remove the need for food tracking. You remove the need for time tracking. You remove the need for like, because it's all like scene based or room based. You remove the need for so much stuff. It's like literally the who gives a fuck test.
Yeah.
I've literally been doing that. I had a whole thing written up. And I'm like, oh, this is probably something that I'd need to run something like Delta Green and Into the Odd. And then I asked myself, who gives a fuck? And I had to delete it all. Because who cares? You know, like, there are people who care, of course, especially when you have a build like you were talking about earlier and you want to like exercise your control over the world in that mechanics way. Obviously, people do care. There's rule sets I care because I think they encourage a certain type of gameplay. But sometimes when it comes down to it, it's like, does it actually need to be there? Do we need a whole ass crafting system for somebody to make an item, or can we just make it a roll?
Yeah.
You know,
is there good
like,
crafting systems in these games? They're all just kind of like it's enough to make you feel like you're struggling slightly and then go away. It's like a go away type of thing. Like, I want this. Okay, can you do it? No, go away. Can you do it? Yes, do it.
Well, it shuts people out. It's kind of how Pathfinder does it, where it's like, oh, you know, because if you tried to do this, you'd have a -20, so don't even bother trying. You know what I mean? It's intentionally made. I feel like that should be a referee call. It should be the referee based on the fiction that says, hey, you can or can't do something, or let's come to a compromise. Not the game that's enforcing its idea of what reality is on your group.
Yeah.
or its idea of what logic is on your group. Burning Wheel doesn't really do that. Burning Wheel does it in a narrative sense. It's like we're telling this sort of story that operates in this sort of way. But if you want to fucking go and like, yeah, I'm going to, do double backflips on this wall and sword fight the thief and do all this crazy shit, it's like, yeah, that's a sword roll. Cool.
I mean, I'm already thinking stuff like you could do traps as momentum sinks. Whereas, in 2D20, you've got certain skill checks where, okay, you failed it. Well, you can spend threat to bypass and succeed.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a similar mechanic that works opposite-wise, whereas it's an effect that you can spend momentum to evade the trap, to evade consequences of it. But otherwise, you could then just take the full consequences of that and use momentum in other ways that might reward you. The trap goes off, and because you didn't evade it and you kept your momentum and you had enough, you're able to actually see how it's like built and that you can take a part of a mechanism away from it.
Oh, shit.
Might work
yeah, but
else.
I guess the issue I see there is because it's so scene-based, you are really stripping the character of their character sheet, and they're really just kind of more mental.
Well, in this loose prototype we're talking about, yeah,
right?
Because we'd have to make a set of stats and a set of skills and stuff.
I think you're probably disagreeing because there's still obviously Star Trek has stats for you can do things with certain strats.
You'd still have stats. You'd still have a specific
so if you fail, you're saying if you fail threat, it's not like a overall no or yes. It's obviously
but like
thinking
outlier. You could start a game off, which is you're at the village and stuff. You're looking for a dungeon. You could run. I think a hex crawl in a 2D20 system would be more engaging than almost any other dungeon crawl game.
I agree because you're cutting through all the bullshit. You're cutting through all the weird. You're getting straight to instead of thinking about how do we have to represent this mechanically, you were focusing on the tension inherent in travel.
You're going, all right, we're going to go and explore this area. Okay, so what skills are you going to be using? How are you going to be navigating this place? Okay, so we're going to be doing it for scouting, or instead we're not going to be doing it for scouting, we're looking for resources specifically. Cool, so we're going to be doing these checks, try to bypass these things. Mm-hmm. If there's then complications, okay, you did scouting, complication. You can have an event occur because of a complication. Or threat can be built up. Okay, you scouted that area, now there's more threat added. Because of you doing an action that's really in downplay or downtime that you wouldn't see the immediate ramifications of in a D&D game, that's usually boring. Going out and scouting, nothing happening, and returning, and a whole bunch of threat is added to the pool immediately tells you story-wise how that scouting mission worked mechanically.
Right, how
it's going to factor in
before it even happens, you kind of already know more or less how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, again, maybe I should release those generic 2D20 rules that I wrote on Plug and Plover, because that was kind of in high demand when I wrote it, and I totally forgot about it. But for this purpose specifically, but something that because Into the Odd
stealth checks too. Holy shit!
Into the Odd's great because I could do everything that you just described Into the Odd just because of how bare bones it is and the type of way it focuses on like emergent gameplay and shit like that.
Yeah.
But what 2D20 has that something like Into the Odd doesn't is a sub game. I love the little sub game that you play because instead of it being like, oh, I'm going to go scout, it becomes I'm going to go scout. But there sure is a lot of threat in the pool.
Yeah.
Is that something I'm willing to go do? So it gives both types of people. It gives the narrative people and the crunchy people something that they can focus on. Because it's like, now, not only are we having fun telling this story, we're also playing this little game of bets and wagers and mind games with the GM.
Yeah.
And I think that it really is what 2D20 has going for it.
Party stealth checks in D&D. If you have one character that is built to be properly balanced with everyone else in the party, then they will likely have disadvantage on stealth checks, and thus the party will usually fail them in causing combat encounters all the time by following just regular stealth rules.
Yeah.
Doing it in a 2D20 system, you could make a threat threshold that basically if a party overcomes an amount of threat, then that
here I have an idea for that. So here's how Groove Stealth would work. Is it's like, oh hey, I have good stealth. Yeah, you can make the sneakers just fine. Oh, but I want to bring everyone else with me and guide them. It's like, yeah, that's fine. You can make the stealth check on behalf of everybody. I'm going to add a threat to the pool for every person you bring with you.
So Clank.
Yeah.
Exactly like Clank.
Clank kind of works that way too.
Yeah. And that's what's cool too, is in the language of the game, that was easy. At the table, I can come up with rulings that already have a mechanical language ascribed to them at the table. I don't have to make up something that's balanced or something in some way. I am describing things in terms of either the fiction or in terms of the rules on the fly, and it works good.
I wonder if one of the things that's a tweak, because, I mean, with how it works with Star Trek, threat and momentum are all in one singular pool.
Yeah.
And that's because it's an episodic game. You're supposed to be getting through stuff just as soon as possible. For D&D, for a fantasy type game, there's most of the standard, unless you're doing a one shot, is a more long form. Everyone's playing individual characters, exploring a story or exploring a world. It'd be interesting if you had, especially, I'm just thinking still in like Hexcrawl terms, you could have separate momentum pools and separate threat pools, determining like the consequences and effects, feedback of the world on characters.
They already kind of do that. I mean, you already see there's optional rules in Star Trek and most of D20 games about each player having their own momentum pool.
Yeah.
There's also like basically every 2D20 game is an iteration of let's do 2D20, but what if? So it's like, let's do 2D20, but what if there were separate threat pools for wilderness exploration stuff and then dungeon exploration stuff? So, did we leave a camp above the surface? How well guarded is it when we go down into the dungeon? You know what I mean? And that's just an example, but it's all asking, let's take this system, but what if this? And then forking the rules in some way and playing it out.
But I mean, Star Trek heavily incentivizes group working together because of one pool. So if you did bring it to individual pools, it would bring it back to more of a D&D individualized type.
Well, the thing is,
I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's just it is nice. Star Trek is like, no, you're a team, okay?
It is an important observation.
You need the momentum.
What might be an interesting thing is having a mechanic of, do you take the momentum for yourself to use class abilities and stuff later on, or do you add it to the pool for helping with group exploration?
There is so many times in Star Trek where having momentum in the group pool, literally, I've been like, I am adding momentum to the group pool because I know which scene we're going to next, and I want them to have the momentum.
But so, for instance, you could have one character. It's like, I'm the wizard. I'm anytime I'm generating momentum, I'm bringing it to myself because I need that to activate these special spells, get faster reactions for these things. And you have someone else that's like the fighter, and he goes, I'll have one momentum regularly on my sheet if I need to do a special like attack, but otherwise I'm gonna have momentum out in the pool so that the rogue just got hit with a fire, like a trap that went off. I'm gonna use that momentum to be able to pull him out of the way.
Pool momentum disappears, player momentum doesn't. That could also be an interesting thing, because it's like, when I'm putting momentum out there, it's gonna disappear, whether it's because other people use it or not. So it's purely out of my benevolence, purely out of the player being like, I am going to, as far as I'm aware, as far as from my character's perspective, I am buying nothing with this momentum.
Yeah.
And to be willing to do that for the greater good of the team really highlights it. Instead of that just being the default in Star Trek, where you're always basically paying momentum for the greater good of the team. In those situations, especially in like a dungeon crawl survival sort of thing, where it's like, we might not all make it out. It's like, do I make sure I get out, or do I make sure I have other people with me?
Right, so there'd be alternate rules.
Here's a situation in 5th edition versus this hypothetical.
This prototype.
So it's a one player character's turn. It's another. So we've got a player character. It's another player character's turn. It's actually a monster's turn, and that other player character that's in front of them gets hit with an effect that pushes them. They're both standing by a ledge. So this monster hits that player character. They're pushed like 10, 15 feet. It will push them off the ledge, but of course they're going right by that other person. That other player goes, well, I'm standing right there. Can't I use like a reaction or something to be able to grab them and save them from falling off? By 5th edition rules by Raw, no, it is not your turn. You're not making an opportunity attack. There's nothing really you can do.
Right.
Most DMs will say as fairly you can feel. I mean, when the player's saying, I mean, my character's right here. We're in this world. This thing's happening. Why can't I react? DM's my reaction is always
make a save and see if
make a ruling. Yeah, it's a last moment. Do a deck save to try and grab them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a 2D20 system, you can see directly right there if there's a point there that you can go, I can grab them on the way down and And because even with how my character is built, if I'm you can have a character that having traits and stuff that work off of a shared pool actually work for that individualized character with more benefits. So you can have different class designs that would be more individualized focused, like maybe a rogue would be, versus other classes that would be able to proc their own abilities off of other people using a shared pool.
Like the paladin would totally be someone that would be using a lot.
So you could have leader characters really feel different from having like a heavy arcane character or a striking martial character.
Yeah, Star Trek shows it. It could work. It could work. Yeah,
it could work.
Yeah.
That kind of leads to a question, a little off topic, but related to this hypothetical.
Yeah.
And so, the more experienced in role playing I get, the more I hate games telling me what to do, and the more I get into the theory end of it. Like, it's like I care more. I understand how role playing games work. I understand the general syntax of a scene. Mm-hmm. I understand how players react to things and how I need to ask things, what information I'd give them. The act of playing the game, like the act of role play, right? And a lot of that has started pushing me away from a lot of systems I never thought I'd be pushed away from, because it's like, hey, anything that lets me just use the theory that I've been learning and developing for like fucking 15 years at this point, anything that gets out of my way and lets me utilize that, I'm enjoying.
Yeah.
What would it take something like this hypothetical that we're describing? What would it take for you, or I guess for anybody at the table, and me included with my favorite system, what would it take for you to be like, I'm done with 5th edition? Not saying you ever would be, or D&D. What is the thing that would have to happen for you to be like, yeah, I'm retiring that, and I'm gonna do this? Would it be something like the prototype we're describing?
Yeah, if I can run D&D like I run Star Trek.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be tight?
And I mean, yeah, it would be really awesome.
How does it feel like? Because we talked a whole bunch about how we feel as players playing. Like last time we talked a lot about your character and stuff like that. Like how does it feel behind the screen when you're running Star? Does it just feel better than anything? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it that good?
It's really good because, I mean, I've got something that I know everyone can pretty much visually be on the same page with their imagination of whatever scene I'm painting. I can always be introducing something new and strange because we're doing sci-fi instead of something typically fantasy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The incentives are all changed from how a usual tabletop role-playing game is played. It's not about trying to get treasure and getting the level and defeating the evil. It's about trying to figure out what the problem is and try to minimize as many casualties as possible.
Dogs in the vineyard.
Yeah, Dogs in the Vineyard.
Yeah, I mean, it is similar in a way to Dogs in the Vineyard, especially when you do the moral quandaries.
Yes.
It's pretty awesome to be able to see people actually be stuck with stuck in a simulated situation, thinking through real, like, decisions in a game that actually would have weight in the real world.
That's what these games are for. Yeah. That's why you hear games teaching like socialization to people and stuff, like how to socialize and stuff, because it's a safe place to think through really complicated and really high stakes issues with other people.
Now, here's the thing. Most of the Star Trek adventures that I've run have not been well written in terms of giving you a full breadth. Like, if you pull out a D&D adventure, you've got all the rooms, all the doors, what the DCs for the doors are, where the hidden treasure is, where all that stuff is. The problem with D&D adventure is it doesn't tell you how to make that dungeon any fun.
Yeah, it just gives you stat logs. It gives
the fun parts are like some good descriptions that a lot of people will just gloss over sometimes.
Yeah.
And maybe some cool like monster mechanics, but doesn't describe to you what that dungeon is.
Yeah.
All the Star Trek adventures are the complete opposite. It describes to me everything about what the session's supposed to be, about what the episode is supposed to feel like. It gives me the setting, it gives me the type of people, it gives me some background. It won't give me a whole lot of the checks that are necessary to discover what a mystery is.
Yeah.
So the thing is, on my side of the table, typically, it feels like I'm running with absolutely no system.
Yeah, I see that.
Because it's almost all just story.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I never feel abandoned in terms of how I can get to that story, because immediately on the other side are a bunch of players that are immediately going, how can we interact with the story? We want to interact with the story, and the way they interact with the story is the 2d20 system.
It's more
so
story,
they're just doing checks, they're interacting with it, they're spending momentum, and meanwhile they're giving me threat. And the only thing I have to keep in mind is I am running a story, and when we get to the mechanical part, everything that I run off of is threat. So how much threat do I have? And where's the story at right now?
Yeah.
And then go
like you're saying,
here's where the story is. I have 6 threat. I can pop these 3 things and have these happen.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Like you're saying, as soon as he disagrees with a version of the story we're trying to tell, we roll.
Right. That's and the rules are almost in the purview of the players. If you're saying you don't feel like you're playing at all, then that means it's entirely us who's basically worrying about the system. You're the one who's worrying about the story. And honestly, isn't that how it should be divided?
Yeah.
In the first place, we were talking about at the beginning, players are so worried about their characters, and those are expressed through numbers. Of course, the system and the ways to resolve situations are going to be there.
Yeah.
But how are you going to come up with innovative situations if you got to assign numbers to them?
When it comes to like monster stat blocks and stuff in Star Trek, it's strange too because typically when it's the Dungeon Master, once you get to the combat, boom, you've got your monster out.
Easy.
You feel like you're, as a Dungeon Master, you kind of get locked into feeling you're playing the monster and you're doing its actions and you're just trying to keep track of what everyone else is doing.
Right.
Yep.
For Star Trek, by the time I put the monster down, usually how any NPC, combat NPC is built, none of them are extremely powerful.
Yeah.
They can be locked down and taken care of in usually a few
rounds.
rounds.
Which ones felt strong to you?
The fucking the dude who kept going invisible, who kept trying to kick who I killed in the shuttle.
Yeah,
they were trying to kick my ass. That guy felt powerful as fuck.
Okay,
well,
I was dead by that.
But you know what? You know what's so interesting is that's all you have to do to make someone powerful. Is simply by story reasons, this character can spend threat to become invisible. Yeah. I changed literally nothing else about the NPC. He's not stronger. He doesn't have any specialized weapons. That is it.
One advantage.
For a story reason, he has this advantage. One tweak to the monster changes how the play happens.
That is something that is very true, and that's something that I've been discovering with Into the Odd, because in so many terms, the book literally tells you, and in so because he's the guy who wrote it has also talked about like converting monsters from D&D to Into the Odd, and he hasn't said this explicitly, but reading in between the lines, like when you ask, hey, what stats and numbers and stuff do I give this creature? The answer is, it doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't. It's completely arbitrary. Do you think this guy should have a higher dex or maybe a couple more hit points? Sure. What the fuck ever. What really matters is what you're describing, which is how do they behave in-game. Because those in-game behaviors are what makes someone seem so dangerous. You know?
So really, the monsters, any sort of the combat in Star Trek always feels like an obstacle. It feels like a function of the story and not the function of what I'm playing.
It's not expected.
When I'm dungeon mastering,
not at all.
A lot of the fun from dungeon mastering comes down to when combat's happening and I'm engaged as the enemy and also engaged with what the players are doing and get excited by them overcoming it.
I mean, that's how it feels in Burning Wheel too. Like all combat or all altercations being obstacles, because it's like, you know, in the book they say don't worry about fucking stats or anything either. Especially if a player is searching for a challenging advancement for a skill, they're gonna go find a challenging thing to do, and it's like, well, that's your obstacle right there.
Yeah,
the challenging one. Go. Like, it's fascinating how I think some of the better iterations in role playing are literally telling GMs to just not worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, just leave the numbers for the players and you know, understand how they work, obviously, and then just fucking go off.
I mean, technically for the Star Trek adventure we're still finishing, we ran out of written material like in the middle of session 2.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know how.
I don't know how either. It feels.
We'll find out, but I don't know how. He'll tell us. He'll tell us when we finish it.
I hope he does, because I have been like.
Well, I mean, it happened that way.
It happened that way
for the Discworld too. For what was it called?
Discworld?
Thelema. For Thelema.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Thelema, it describes to you basically. So here is the mystery, the problem of what happens. Players are going to get captured. There's some of them are going to get stuck in the dark side. Here's a whole bunch of encounters and dangers in the dark side. Meanwhile, other players will be stuck in the light side.
Here's some shit on the light side.
No, it doesn't tell
nothing.
you anything
It's
on the
just
light
happening.
side. It goes, there is a light side, and there is the dark
Interesting side.
here is all the stats and the progression of problems for the dark side.
I didn't know that either.
Here are simply plot events that happen on the light side. It doesn't describe anything about the light side.
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
So what that gave me is suddenly is going, well, crap. It gave me some structure for all the combat and the mechanic parts I'd have to have real struggle with. And it just said, here's the light side, here's what it stands for, these are the types of things people enjoy. Fill it yourself.
Yeah, figure it out.
And so then I only filled it with things that my players had a care or concern to go do.
Right.
I simply asked, what do you want to do? And they'd go, all right, I want to go to this place. I want to go to an arena. I go, boom, it's there. Boom, it's there.
That kind of goes back to giving... That sort of thing doesn't matter. Yeah, light side, whatever. That sort of thing doesn't matter when you've given the players a very clear, here's what you're here to do, here's what this place is like, first 5 minutes, I'm giving you the
which would be super frustrating in 5th if it didn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
Because there's no numbers to attach to anything.
Because you have to attach numbers to something.
Yeah.
Because it's such a system forward, build forward game that players would just feel unfulfilled for not being able to use all their shit.
Yeah, you have to plan. Or if you don't plan, you have a like you were saying, like the Star Trek, it sounds the episode or the whatever episode you're on has a tone that you work on that you can use the tone and whatever the thing. Yeah. Well, hey, there's a lich doing this thing, cool, but there's not an overall some reason or feeling you want to invoke. There is just the obstacle you want to attack. While Star Trek there's this overall thing that's going on behind the conflict that we're discussing.
Yeah. And arguably D&D doesn't do that. Arguably that's better, like you said, because what's figuring out what that overall fucking thing is honestly one of the hardest things to do. You can come up with an encounter on the fly, but what does it matter? How does it relate to other things?
Yeah.
That's actually a very interesting point. Yeah, we are. Do we want to just barrel right into another episode?
I want to take a break.
Take a break.